page 189 and 190 in Chapter 7, there's a section called Validating Student Voices. In multicultural education, all participants have a voice. Voice is the right and opportunity to speak and be heard as an equal. It may mean that we will have to debate some items, and sometimes we may have to agree to disagree, but your students should have a voice. Students, especially low-income students, students of color, students with disabilities, and English language learners may think that teachers are not interested in them, their cultures, or their perspectives when they're seldom asked to respond in class. Their opinions are never requested, and they are never assigned to lead a group. There's a problem when that happens. All students should feel like equals inside the classroom. Including student voices in the classroom dialogue is not always easy. Sometimes we as teachers forget we want to do all the talking and we want the students to do all the listening, but that's and we tend to think of ourselves as being that dispenser of knowledge again when there's lots of knowledge in the classroom amongst the students. When the classroom climate begins to include student voices, students may express anger and be confrontational. They may test the limits of the language that can be used and the subjects that can be broached. But that is part. That's part of what happens, and that's not such a bad thing. Hot cognition is something we learned about in 2010, where students get there's a heated discussion and students get involved in that, and then they have to think it through and try to figure it out, and those emotions cause that material that you're teaching to go in long-term memory. So that's not so bad. You're just going to make sure you're setting the rules where no one is the main speaker in the class. Everybody has a share, everybody talks, everybody gives their 2 cents worth, and it's respected. Respect for differences is key in affirming student voices. For many educators, this affirmation requires relinquishing the power they have traditionally had as the voice of authority with the right answers, and we've talked about that when we talked about philosophies. Class time no longer is monopolized by teacher talk. The meaningful incorporation of student voices requires the development of listening skills and the validation of multiple perspectives, languages, and dialects. It should allow students to participate in the dialogue and the learning process through speaking, writing, and artistic expression. It should also allow them to use the modes of communication with which they feel most comfortable while teaching them other modes. So I think we can kind of see, as we've talked about in 2010 and a little bit in 2300 about the problem-based learning, the PBLs, can you see how this would play in? Students would work together. They would decide on how they were going to handle a problem, how they were going to work through it as a group. They'd have to collaborate. Talking about giving students voices. Students have voices when you conduct classes such as that. Stop the video. Tell me what you think about how will you help your students have a voice in your classroom, or will you at all? It's all going to depend on your philosophy.